Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta, and we're a Minnesota sports podcast. So if you're a Minnesota sports fan, especially a Minnesota Wild fan, please hit that subscribe button and click the like button on this video as well to help spread the word. And today we're going to be talking, obviously, probably the biggest talker for the Minnesota Wild this offseason, at least up until the NHL draft. What the heck are they going to do with Kevin Fiala? What the heck are they going to do with this current cap crunch they got coming down? So let's dig into it a little bit here. Bill Guerin's been doing all sorts of interviews over the last week and a half or so. Basically, he's gone on K-Fan. He's gone on Michael Russo's podcast. He's been all over the place. And the gist of it is he's sick of people crapping on Matt Dumba, which, I mean, people know how I feel about Matt Dumba. He's mistake prone. He's injury prone. Don't get me wrong, he's probably a great leader in the locker room, and he's, a very aggressive player, which the Wild need, especially at defense. But, and then there's Kevin Fiala, who obviously is going to want the bag this offseason after having a career high in points. Second best regular season in Minnesota Wild history behind Kirill Kaprizov, who had the best season this season. So it's just fascinating here because really what it comes down to is cap-wise, you either got to trade Dumba or you got to trade Fiala because Dumba, I believe, is going to be making it somewhere in the $5 to $6 million range. And then obviously Fiala is probably going to want around $8 or $9 million. So definitely some things to go over there. But the gist of what Guerin was saying is, he's sick of people crapping on Dumba. He mentioned how Kevin Fiala had a great 3 months for them. I don't know if he meant that as a shot or not at Fiala. He's talking about how, he talked about the exit interview with Fiala and about how he and Fiala were both realistic about what this offseason could entail. There's a lot of uncertainty, etc. So, I mean, what's your read on this, Liberta? Do you think this would be a mistake to choose Dumba over Fiala, even though that's really the way it's looking like it's going?
I personally think so, but I'm trusting Guerin because he hasn't steered us wrong before. I think he knows what he's doing. And there's a reason they also gave Dumba the assistant captain. Like, they truly believed in him, not only in his play on the ice, but really the leadership in the locker room. So yeah, I think that goes a long way. I think maybe people could consider that a little bit more. But in my opinion, yeah, as far as production goes for this team, I feel like it's not even close. Like you said, Fiala's had the second best season ever by a Wild player, did better than anybody else before the season, and besides Kaprizov this year. So it's like that's a lot to replace or try to anyway piece together and try and remain a contender next year as strong as we are, or as strong as we were this season. So yeah, I don't like it too much, but again, it's Guerin calling the shots, and he's done it right so far, it feels like. So I think we just gotta trust that he's making the right decision here. But yeah, it's kind of sad when Fiala comes out on Instagram's like, "Thank you, Minnesota," or what do you say? "Goodbye, Minnesota." I can't remember exactly.
I think it was "Thank you, Minnesota." Yeah.
Thank you, Minnesota. Yeah, that's pretty sad. But at the same time, like, to make $8 to $9 million a year, that's a lot, especially when we're paying Kaprizov as much as he is, and deservedly so. But and then it's trying to justify that too when after the playoff series we just had, that doesn't feel great. And I think that's worth considering too. But yeah, man, it's tough. But at the same time too, we could certainly entertain trade offers. Like, I know that's been floated out there. I know the hot rumors, definitely the 2-pick from the Devils, because they're big fans of Fiala. So like that could be something we entertain. But yeah, just it's kind of a tough time for this Wild team. I mean, thanks to Parise and Suter for all that money that they're eating up these next couple of years.
Yeah, and like Guerin fully, he was fully aware of what the buyouts would do to this team in the future years. And now we're going to start feeling that cap crunch starting this year. The Wild kind of went for it this year. They made some deals at the deadline. They had a fantastic regular season, and they once again just fell flat on their face. And I'm still not certain that this team is made up of winners, but I mean, that's a different conversation for a different day. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, Fiala, he's such a fun player to watch. He's obviously one of the fan favorites just because of, how exciting he is, how skilled he is. And it always hurts to lose a player like this. But at the same time, it's not like you're going to lose him for nothing. It's not like he's just going to be a straight up free agent and you're going to let him walk. I mean, they will trade him if he's going to leave. So it's like, at least you'll be getting something for him. You'll probably get a good haul for him. You mentioned New Jersey with the number 2 pick. There's rumors that Ottawa with the number 7 pick is very interested in Fiala. So, I mean, there's definitely deals that can be made here. I also heard Bill Guerin mentioning how they're going to need to go out and get center help this offseason just because I don't think they were too impressed with their centers in the playoffs. And so maybe that's another way to get a center in here, is trading Kevin Fiala. So even though Fiala is clearly, in my opinion, the better player between him and Dumba, even though they don't play the same position. I get why it makes sense because your return is going to be much better for Fiala than it will be for Dumba. You won't have to pay Dumba as much as Fiala. And then, they probably view Fiala as a little more replaceable. You're not going to replace his 85 regular season points, but between a Marco Rossi coming up and, contributing next season, then a potential player that you trade for with Fiala, or if you have a high draft pick, you have the potential of drafting another stud that could be up, it wouldn't be next year or the year after, but they could be up in 3 to 4 seasons once you're out of this cap crunch and you're ready to go make another run. So
true. That's a good point.
It sucks because they had a really good season and it feels like they were just right on the edge of contending for a Stanley Cup. And now I think they're going to probably take a step back for the next couple seasons just because they almost have no choice given the salary cap constraints. So I think the goal now is probably to gear up for 2 to 3 years from now when they're coming out of that cap crunch and trying to make a run then, because then they can pursue some free agents that can really help them make that run. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just keeping Kaprizov happy, whatever that looks like, I think is most important here because he's signed for another, I think he's got another 4 years on the contract now, because I believe it was a 5-year deal last offseason. Yep. So he's got another 4. I think positioning ourselves to look like a true contender at that point in time when his contract's supposed to expire, I think that's very important. So I think I kind of like the idea. The more you paint that picture where it's like maybe you get a guy for Fiala, that's not going to help you right now, but like a couple of years when you get that guy, and then Jesper Wallstedt hopefully will be the dude in the net where he's just super good and he's like really settled into an NHL role by that point too, a couple of years from now, hopefully. So I think maybe the pieces could come together then. For now, I just kind of stay afloat. I can get behind that. Yeah,
definitely. And that, like you mentioned, keeping Kaprizov happy is the absolute number one priority of this team over the next 3 seasons. Cause he played with Ryan Hartman and Zuccarello this year and it was fantastic. And I'm sure he's going to play with Zuccarello for sure again next year, but yes. Zuccarello also vanished in the playoffs. He's getting older. How much more sustainable is, him playing on that first line? So you got to factor in, well, do you maybe eventually move Matt Boldy up there? It could make sense if Boldy and Fiala aren't going to be together. You put Boldy and Kaprizov together. And then you got to think, well, do we want Marco Rossi centering those guys and just have that dynamic first line? Because I know Evason likes to spread the wealth, but at the same time, like it's got to be a fit too. So like Kaprizov, Boldy, and Rossi probably would all play at a different speed than basically every other player on the roster. So, I think I could definitely see that being a fit, and that could be a dynamic line that keeps Kaprizov happy. There's so many other ways to go here, and we have no idea who they're going to add to this team over the next couple seasons as well. But it's going to be interesting. It's too bad it's come to this point because, Fiala, we traded him straight up for Granlund. I don't think a lot of people liked that trade at the time. Turned out to be a really good trade by Paul Fenton. And, we've watched Fiala grow up. He's literally gotten better every single season under the Wild. So it's a bummer to see it come down to this. There's still a slim chance that he stays. Maybe they can work something out, but I don't have a great feeling about it. So do you have any other final thoughts on this before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, no, it's going to be kind of a tough one to swallow when he does depart. However, that might be wherever we might trade him, I think. But I think it's for the best. Like, it's going to, just on the surface looking, Dumba versus Fiala, it's like, oh, Bill Guerin, you moron. But it's like goes deeper than that when you consider all the factors like you've laid out between it'll be a cheaper contract for Dumba. You're going to get more of a return for Fiala. And you kind of maybe reset yourself just a little bit to contend in a couple of years rather than trying to do it these next 2 years and you're really in a cap crunch. So I think on the surface it looks bad, but deep down you kind of reason with the way Bill Guerin's thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how it plays out. Bill Guerin basically said nothing's going to happen until after the Stanley Cup. So we're closing in on that obviously too, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do. And it'll be an entertaining offseason at the very least. We'll have stuff to talk about, so that'll be good. But that will do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I mentioned earlier, please click the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think it's a mistake to be keeping Dumba over Fiala? I guess how would you handle this situation? And what do you think we could get in a trade package for Kevin Fiala? What are some of your thoughts on some good value we could get back for him? So until next time, thanks for watching.